actually know and what they now need to put out in the public domain. Because these situations you have to manage.
Absolutely.
That is just the reality. You can't tell them everything that you know, lest you cause a panic.
You also don't know much. So, I mean, if you start saying everything, today we've discovered that this thing is actually going through one ear and coming out through the tongue.
Yes.
You can't start, keep changing information.
Of course, you can't share
this.
that information at this time because, we're already dealing with something that is causing worldwide panic, right? You're not just talking about China. Everybody in the world is thinking, my goodness, I'm going to sit on a bus and somebody's going to sneeze on me. I'm going to get this thing because I don't know who they've been in contact with and I don't know where that other individual has come from, right? You have many people who may have traveled to China in the last 1 month. Now imagine if this actually happened from December 1st. December 31st is when the first alert came out.
Wow.
Right? So you had 30 days of people who may have traveled back and forth and maybe were in that period of incubation and had no idea what was really going on. And maybe those people are sitting on this information and not saying about it, knowing very well that they would have traveled. Mind you, this information about December 1st and 31st only came out yesterday. Right? So you have people who are panicking. It is necessary. It is vital, especially with something like this. One, that the information is controlled, but an element of truth has to come into play here so that people know what they're dealing with. Was it 1st or was it 31st? My goodness. Because if you have folks running around the globe
By the way,
who traveled out come December 1st, they're going to want to know about this. And maybe they did develop some symptoms.
Truth needs to be managed, and you can't
from
tell
a national perspective, it has to be managed.
You can't tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. No. You've got to manage those. In some cases, you're not telling a lie. You're just withholding
I totally get that, and I can understand that from a national security health wise. I understand that completely. But just try and imagine now this information that was fed. Maybe we assume that it was propaganda coming out of the U.S. Senate yesterday.
Yeah,
okay?
and this
can we assume, or maybe it was the truth?
If you want to understand,
this is a Lancet report, wasn't it?
Imagine individuals who may have left this territory before the 31st of December.
Okay, but more importantly, is it something that can be managed? Now, they are using containment as a measure for ensuring you control the disease.
Yeah.
And it is a good way of going about it. However, there is now the other stage of, can you have a vaccine? Okay? Can you have something that can halt the spread if somebody has it?
Yeah.
All right? Do we know people who've been affected by the virus and who have survived it and have lived? Now, clearly, the Chinese don't have a strong PR and propaganda machinery like the US. To date, what the US has spent on matters related to HIV, either through Global Fund or PEPFAR, is $90 billion. That is, it's mind-boggling amount. You could ask, why did they spend so much money?
Research.
Yes. And why did they spend so much money when essentially they were saying this disease was centered in anywhere other than the US? Why spend so much money? Now, if you want to be simple and you want to say, look, let's forget the why. Has the money been useful? Yes. Has it saved lives? Yes. Has it rolled back that particular tide? Yes. So let's focus on the coronavirus. Is it something that can be contained? Yes. Is it that can be managed? Yes. Is it can this particular, remember, WHO took the point of declaring it a public health emergency.
Yeah.
Now, once you open that floodgate, now you've opened all manner of parasites to actually sort of like come into that conversation and take center stage. Now, this is where you now come in and say, it's like this entire country is infected, which means their products are infected.
Yeah.
Meaning everything they do, that's the message being sent. Essentially, this is not a safe country to do business with.
Be careful with the meat that you eat, buy from China.
Yes.
Be careful with
whatever you buy, even these cars that come from there.
The ships that are coming from China. All the vessels,
careful.
be careful. You don't know whether before it brought in the fruit, it had carried animals. You don't know whether this is basically blockading a country.
Essentially, you have, yes, it's like you want to put in place an economic shutdown for the whole of China.
And you know what? If you do that, not only are you putting this shutdown there for China, you also then position yourself then as who to look to when it comes to other interests.
The alternative.
Of course. You're the alternative. And it can't be seen that, okay, call it foul play or just call it...
I wish it worked that simply. It doesn't. China has been called the world's factory. Almost everybody does something in China. You shut down China, you'll shut down other countries as well.
Yes.
It's not just China you're going to shut down.
You
So
can just switch on the
Nope.
machine in your country to become, let's start manufacturing those things here.
But
something
still, there's a
it
position.
will not,
yeah,
it cannot
but
happen.
there's a position for there's a position of truth teller that you now position yourself in
Yeah.
as the person then who would have shown the
You
light
own
on
the
something
story
like this. You
now.
own the story, and they always say that if you want it to go your way, tell it yourself first. Now, in this case, somebody else has told it, and they are already in that position now as a thought
the
leader
race.
when it comes to that. Absolutely.
17 minutes past 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at the weather.
Spice FM. Nyeri. The weather with Spice FM.
All right, experiencing still sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning. We are standing at about 17 degrees right now, expecting that it's going to be partly cloudy conditions, but sunny conditions happening in the capital through the rest of the day. Taking a look then further afield, and we look at Malindi, that is now standing at 28 degrees, a warm and sunny day. Expect highs of 32 and lows of 26. In Kisumu, it's raining. There's going to be rain showers through the day with highs of 27 and lows of 18. 26 degrees in Mombasa, 32 degrees the high, and 25 degrees at the low. Eldoret at 14 degrees now, partly cloudy conditions through the day. Expect those to prevail with highs of 23 and lows of 12. Nakuru at 15 degrees currently with highs of 27 and 13. Low, it's going to be a partly cloudy day. Nyeri the same at 14 degrees. Expect some rain showers later on with highs of 24 and lows of 13.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So everybody's becoming a conspiracy theorist here. So we've seen U.S. Senator, what's his name again?
Mr. Cotton, his name is Cotton.
Senator Cotton, coming out and saying that there's a report that's come out. It appears clearly that China is lying about this coronavirus. The first incident, they reported it on the 31st of December. It emerges that now the first incident was noticed on the 1st of December. So they stayed an entire month without reporting this to the world. They've been lying about the number of cases of those infected, lying about the number of cases of those that have died. So the world needs to be very, very careful about what it's doing. And he was basically speaking in the Senate and saying Russia has closed the borders with China. We should also start controlling and restricting travel from and to China, and saying only essential people like medical staff and others should be allowed to go and to go to China.
Well, I think
all other Americans should not go to China.
He went even further and said that, look, we've evacuated our people from there as the US, and other countries then should follow suit. Basically, what you're asking is a shutdown to occur in this country.
Get out of China.
Get out of China. Don't trade with this country right now. Shut your borders. Let's not have anything until this thing has been properly contained. So, yes, you may be protecting people, but essentially what you're doing is that you're blocking off a country from the channels that it would normally operate within when it comes to trade, when it comes to economics, when it comes to, governance. At this point, you're saying we're not going to deal with these folks right now until they have this thing under wraps.
My goodness.
Really, what does that do for a country? We've talked about when a country then is on hold for one day. What do they lose in terms of what do they lose in terms of in terms of their economy? What do they lose? So now, essentially, this is the call. Above and beyond,
this is a country that trades with the entire world.
He had the military in front of him, the U.S. military representatives in front of him, top brass in front of him, and he was asking them directly, "What have you done to make sure that we don't have the spread of this even more?"
In your regions.
In your regions. And we had Djibouti stand up and speak.
You have the guy who's the head of the African command of the U.S. in Africa. Is there. The person in charge of Middle East is there. The person in charge of Europe. The person in NATO is there. All of them. You're being asked, as Americans, what are we doing in your areas
to make sure that this
to ensure
doesn't
that thing that is not killing Africans, is not spreading.
It's not killing Americans.
It's not spreading to Africa. To ensure it's really, what was emerging out of this particular hearing and sitting is this senator is advocating for complete isolation of China as a country. CT, you've been asking this question over and over again. What is what is it? Why is this coronavirus getting so much publicity?
Yes.
Why is it, why do we appear to be in such a wide panic with this one virus?
Why?
This is starting to me, but this is starting to answer the questions.
Too much attention was being paid to this. And it's almost, you look at the numbers and you're saying, yes, people are dying, but what's alarming about this?
Yeah.
Okay? You look again at the numbers and say, but it's under control.
Have you been unable
And the
to?
people who are actually dying are in China, where there was the outbreak, all right? But they've contained it, meaning there were people who were already infected. They hadn't exhibited any signs of having the disease, so you couldn't know.
Yep.
So they're being dealt with. Now, this has to happen before a certain critical mass is actually arrived at. And why there's that containment is so that it doesn't spread. That's why you have it.
Yep.
Say, okay, let's just shut it down. Then we're able to manage it, so you know. If people are moving, you obviously can't. But let me ask this senator, was he a Republican or a Democrat?
He's a Republican. He is.
Precisely. Now, we are seeing Donald Trump's foreign policy in action.
This is it.
This is it. What they've decided is to have an attack dog approach to this whole thing. And they forget that China actually is their biggest trading partner.
So this is another front in the trade war.
You can't bite off your nose to spite your face, essentially.
Okay.
Come and talk to us, then we'll tell the world to tone down.
The truth is they
We can rally the world back to China. But now we can pull the world out of China.
They trade with Canada more than they trade with China. According to statistics, China is actually the third greatest trading partner. But if you talk about trade deficits in terms of who owes who money, America owes China a lot more. And in the trillions, yes.
What China is selling to America is more than what America is selling to China.
America produces in China. What China produces in America, one could argue, is in partnership with American companies, which would also argue they own. So this is a clawing back. If I read and if I understand what I was hearing, these are people who can't believe that these people whom they don't hold in very high regard have actually taken control of their economy. This is the thing that I am hearing. So you're using everything possible to paint them in the worst possible light, to show not only are they unreliable, they are liars, but they even breed diseases that can kill the whole world.
Yes.
What do we talk about?
Them and their animals.
Them and their animals, yes.
This is the thing, because this is when you taint an image, that's something that sticks around a lot longer than even any words that you speak. Of course, the words are what are the agents of this tainting, right? But the image taint stays around for a very long time.
For the longest,
now,
it was about China being the producer of fake items.
There you go. Now, look at this gentleman and what he said. They lied. He didn't say maybe they didn't tell us the full story. He didn't say maybe the elements that we don't have or information that he was categorical. And he said they lied. Now, imagine in the future when coronavirus has come and gone, all right? And then you start to have other conversations on other things. Of course, you're going to go back to this point that they lied about something potentially so serious that could have grabbed the world by storm. And they lied about that. Are you going to be able to trust them then when it comes to other things? That's what a tainting of an image does. That's what a tainting of a reputation does. So much so that in the future, you're not then able to trust what this individual representing this nation then essentially would say. Unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with now.
The World Health Organization, in fact, even the head of the World Health Organization has come under immense pressure. Because how are you dealing with this coronavirus? What is it that you're saying? What information are you giving to the people, to the world? Why aren't you being tougher on China? This, Mr. Tedros is really facing, Dr. Tedros is really facing a lot of pressure globally because of how WHO is handling this. We'd have wanted not an African to be at the head of WHO at this point. We'd have wanted one of us.
What is also of interest, we only have 2 referral labs that can manage this on the continent.
Even worse.
WHO response to this is that they have targeted 20 countries, prioritized 13, whom they are going to give assistance to build the sort of support you need to manage this.
And where do we fall?
And we are among them.
Yep.
They're looking at people who trade with China and people who have direct flights from their country to China and the frequency with which they do this. That's how they've worked it out. And so we are there. But remember, the details of how they plan to support are vague. Vague. But they plan to support, whether it's in supplying kits, whether it's ensuring that the capacities that are already in existence are bolstered, all these things. But specific giving numbers that this is what we hope to by this time so that we'll be able to manage these numbers and do this. No, that isn't out in the public domain.
Yet,
It may be, yes, it may be in the works. What is certain is this: the hype, the attention, and now the outbursts, because that was an outburst that we've heard coming from the US. This thing is not just about the coronavirus, and the coronavirus is not just a coronavirus. There's a lot more to it. Remember, the conspiracies around these viruses usually is that they are created in labs, and then something goes wrong. And there are people who have been tending, and if you're talking about rumors and propaganda emanating from the US, there's been a suggestion because of the lab, hospital capacity, training facilities within Wuhan that deal with virology. There have been the slightest whiff of a hint that perhaps some of the viruses they've been tampering with and working with leaked into the air. Hence,
A
the
petri dish fell somewhere. A beaker broke.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
That's what they're not telling us.
That is what. And remember, it's the same conspiracy theory and propaganda that surrounded HIV. Because one groups among whom it was first seen among people, gay people, and they even gave you a specific place in the US. The thing that I've always found fascinating is how it leapfrogged to the Congo and the primates.
From the US.
Yes, that was the next stop. And for the longest time, people who lived in the Congo have been eating primates. HIV was not known. So why at that particular point did suddenly the eating of primates and the interaction with the primates suddenly become the cause of HIV? How? All of a sudden. And the argument was...
Who's primate zero?
This is the point. So you ask the question, again, conspiracy theories, the pharmaceutical world, what is their business, the co-mandate? Is it to save lives or to make money?
Make money.
Well, of course,
Precisely. So would you rather produce something that ensures that the host for this particular virus lives forever, or to ensure that the virus is dead? What do you think is the option here? Those are the questions that conspiracy theorists have asked over time. And if we unleash the same conspiracy theories in this particular situation, can you imagine what they're going to come up with?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
A lot already.
Of course, you want to ask yourself then, who would have thunk it that China would have overtaken the US when it came to, global leadership? And is there something that we can do to stunt that growth?
They overtook the US a long time ago.
Now, of course, they're not enjoying this position.
How
in
can
which
we
they're
claw
in.
back into
How
our position?
can we get back to
First of all, stop
one?
that guy from onward movement. We catch up with him, and then now let's compete again.
And this is it. While you're focusing on China, Russia is moving ahead, Korea is moving ahead, Japan is moving ahead, India is moving ahead, Indonesia is moving ahead. While you're focusing on China.
Everybody else is.
They are moving ahead. And they're moving ahead technologically, and they're becoming giants. And they're becoming bona fide world powers. While you're focusing on China.
On China.
Yes. So, again, the geopolitical situations that have been in our world are playing out because of this virus now. And we are seeing it. And more is going to play out.
Is it a fact that Russia has closed the entire border with China?
I don't know if it's a fact yet. I mean, it was a suggestion. It was a suggestion. I think it's something we can look at. But this is what was being said. Look, the countries closest to China need to close their borders, all right? And this was as of yesterday. We don't know if it actually happened, but we'll have a look-see. And of course, there was also the suggestion that all major world airlines should stop flying to China immediately, of course. And this is a suggestion that's coming out from the United States, no less.
8:30. Good morning. This is a situation. We're looking at the coronavirus. Now we're looking at the other side, the politics side, the political side, the conspiracy side of this virus and the information that's out there in the public. What exactly is happening? Let's take a look at traffic, and then the conversation continues. And open up the phone lines now, 0719 012 600.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. Traffic.
All right, anything looking better now? Let's take a look. Thika Road to Pangani. Don't even think of using the service lane right now because that is chock-a-blocked and people are trying to climb on top of each other, so that's not really happening there. Don't use that. Langata Road today is bumper to bumper, really literally bumper to bumper, in the fact that people's bumpers have hit each other. We have 3 accidents on Langata Road already, so if you don't have to use it right now, folks, please do not. Looking at other parts of the city, right around Mutindwa, Outer Ring Road, we've had 3. Okay, it seems to be accident day today. We have 3 accidents in that area as well, and the police are attending to that. Outer Ring Road, 1 woman has been killed, unfortunately, this morning, and so we have quite the situation there, waiting for the police to come and sort that out. Definitely affects traffic, and then down towards the Greater Jogo Road. So this is what's happening right now. If you find an alternate, let us know what you see. Mombasa Road, of course, is still giving up those vibes that we're not very happy with, having started from early as 5 o'clock today with the traffic. I know it needs quite a lot of patience and perhaps a stiff drink. Spice FM KE 0719 012 600. Let us know what you see. Let's try and keep you moving as best we can.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So what do you think? What is happening? What are we not being told? Nduoko is saying we need to be given the entire whole truth about this coronavirus.
Done right.
Everybody around
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
That, where the coronavirus has also been reported. Also with the other global agencies like the WHO. Everybody who has information about coronavirus, put it on the
Put
table.
it on the table and let's see what we're dealing with in this sense. Yeah, show your hand, essentially. Because what are we looking at? We're looking at something that is taking lives. Just look at the numbers, Eric. I mean, 11,000 new cases since Monday.
In
we
just
were at
how many?
17,000.
That's 4 days?
4 days, 11,000 new cases. Every day, 100 people are dying. We were at 172 on Monday. We're now at 563. Definitely this number is going to increase by tomorrow. Where are we going to be by Monday? And what are we looking at? So it seems to me that there definitely, it's clear that there are more cases that have not been, that are not being documented. And every time somebody walks into a medical facility or somebody reports that here's somebody else who's been affected, they keep increasing by the day. Are you telling me that all of this is within Wuhan?
In 1957 up to 1958, you had what you call the Asian flu. 2 million people died. Okay? Now, in 1968 to 1969, you had the Hong Kong flu, other known influenza. 1 million people died. From 1960 to the present, people who have died from HIV number 30 million. In all these cases, have you ever heard of a situation where people are asking for borders to be shut and the sort of actions that we are hearing now being called for? Have you ever? No,
Nope.
You haven't. And these
Not
are
to this
periods
extent.
when, yes, globalization had begun in the 50s, not quite there in the 70s, it was pushed. The advent of HIV found it in full bloom. And there is no time at all when you were actually told that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't move in this direction. It didn't happen. So why this?
Why this particular time?
Why?
Confirmation actually here. So reading from the Financial Times, Russia has ordered the closure of its huge land border with China as Moscow scrambles to prevent the deadly coronavirus infection spreading from its southern neighbor. This was on the 30th of January last week. There have been no confirmed cases of the respiratory illness in Russia, but Vladimir Putin's government is anxious to prevent the virus from crossing a land border that stretches for more than 4,000 kilometers. Moscow has already blocked Chinese tour groups from entering the country. The growing disruption to the world's second largest economy came as China said 170 people had died. That was last 170.
Yeah.
Now we are at 500.
563 actually.
So yes, Russia has ordered the closure of the border.
Okay.
Now we are saying all other countries around there should order closure. All other countries of the world should restrict movement to and from China.
Again, I am asking
much.
I am asking the question, why? Why? In 2009, we had a worldwide influenza which claimed the lives of 200,000 people. You did not hear this. Why this? This particular one. We are at what, 700? Okay, not that 700 is a small number. Okay, maybe
of deaths?
500.
563.
Okay, so why? Maybe.
And how many cases outside China? How many cases have been confirmed outside China in the last 5 days, for instance? If you look at that, you can't say that, if it was 50 new cases per day outside China.
No. It's within China. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's go to the phone lines. Rimba Coco in Kisumu. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Latif.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Welcome to the Situation Room, Rimba Coco.
Thank you. So what I want to say,
Yes.
You see the situation of coronavirus is somehow different with the one HIV because the mode of transfer, coronavirus is kind of, you can get it through contact as opposed to HIV where there must be some intercourse. So therefore,
Exchange of bodily fluids.
The exchange of bodily fluids. So it means that the neighboring countries surrounding China, they are right to block their borders.
Influenza is what many people refer to as a cold. And again, the cause is what they call a virus. Same as a virus, maybe a cousin to this particular current, the one we're now dealing with. And I mentioned that in the year 1968 to 69, there's what we call the Hong Kong flu. It killed over 1 million people. And if you're talking about the world going to Hong Kong and people moving within Hong Kong and around Hong Kong, there's a lot of movement. But you never heard of the sort of sanctions and blockages and restrictions as the ones you're hearing. So again, it's influenza. It is spread the same way as the coronavirus. Same.
Respiratory, yes.
Yes.
So the speed at which this coronavirus is spreading is actually very fast. So I think that's why the world is kind of shocked. Yeah, so that's my reasoning.
Thank you, Rimba Coco. Thank you for calling in. Have a good day. 0719-012-600. What do you think is happening with this coronavirus story? What are we not being told? So, like you've said, CT, we've had very many of these cases. In fact, recently we've had all these respiratory virus infections, SARS, MERS, spreading around the world. What exactly? I mean, we haven't had an outcry that, close the borders. Even when we had the Ebola virus outbreak in West Africa and Central Africa, and it was spreading widely and very fast around the world, did we see
That's interesting.
Order of closure of
That's very
borders?
Interesting because really there was no order on closure of borders.
Apart from
Interestingly enough, we didn't see that. What we saw was that there was more in terms of border control.
Yep.
And when there was crossing over of borders, there was the heightened screening and such. Because I remember traveling around that time, and of course it was quite heightened. People are checking, even on the plane, people are checking your temperature, such, when you were unbeknownst to you, but it was happening. We saw heightened screening and things like this. But in terms of border control, we didn't see that. Interestingly enough, though, it was not centered just in one country.
It was actually around many countries.
It was very many countries.
Yep.
It was not like what we see where, the majority of the higher majority is in one country, like we see in China. But we didn't see that to the extent that we do now. If anything, what we're looking for was the towards now the end of this whole spate, is that what we saw was, with whatever kind of medication that they actually got, was a quick transport of that medication to highly affected areas, and then now this solution that was now being given to people to contain in those areas. And of course there was messaging, there was all kinds of communication in terms of what needed to be done at those hospitals, making sure that people got the medication.
One could argue perhaps that because of the knowledge they got from other influenza and other outbreaks, they have felt the need to actually clamp down this hard. But this is really, really, really heavy going. Look, I was doing the maths on the Asian flu that claimed 2 million lives. If you work that out and you talk about a period of, say, 2 years, that gives you 730 days, isn't it? Now, if you divide by the 2 million, that comes to 2,739 deaths per day.
Yep. Those are many.
Per day. To get to 2 million.
Over the period of
2 years.
2 years, yes,
Worldwide,
exactly.
yes. So I am saying that this was something alarming, but it was in 1957. So one learns from that and said, let's not get to the 2 million number. Let's not even get to the 50,000 number. Let's not even get to the 10,000 number. Let's eliminate it. But what I am hearing and reading, what is it about this particular flu? What is it about this particular virus that is so virulent that is causing this amount of activity? What is it? Because there's something we're not being told. I mean, borders just shutting every single day. Flights are being cancelled worldwide. What is it?
Justification for it.
Yeah, what is
There's
it?
got to be, right?
What is
How
it?
many
got to
cases
be.
have come out of China? How many deaths do we have out of China? Apart from that one in the Philippines, how many other deaths do we have outside China? How many have been reported? How many new cases are being reported on a daily basis out of China?
Actually,
confirmed.
it does not go beyond 4.
There
So,
you go.
so you're asking the question, wait, what is it? Because there is something that we're not being told that's causing this amount of panic. And those who are shutting their borders know.
There
but,
you go.
But we don't know.
Look,
When we need to know.
if you want
Let's
to
go
look
to the
at
phone lines.
Okay, let's do that.
Elijah is calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Elijah.
Morning, how are you?
We're fine.
Very
thank
well,
you.
thank you, Elijah.
Yeah, so I think you guys are hitting the nail on the head. When you look at Ebola without border closing and a mortality rate of 50%, and then you look at this coronavirus mortality rate of 2%,
Right.
it doesn't add up. But many decisions that are made, especially by multinational bodies, are geopolitical. They're not entirely altruistic. So this may be the only chance that the West has to slap the wrist of China. And they're going to milk it for everything it's
They
worth.
will take it.
Yeah, exactly. Because really their response has been over, above and beyond.
Right.
But when you look at the response of the West, I mean, what are they talking about? The normal influenza kills way more people. And that's an annual event in the U.S. You never hear about any travel advisory to the U.S.
No.
Yeah.
You will never hear about that with any of the other cholera. Cholera kills so many more people. You don't hear about people being told now you can't travel there. I think it's ridiculous.
I have to agree with you, Elijah, in this case, because, I mean, when we talk about the truth being told on one side, when we say, look, China needs to put all its cards on the table, I think this is another side of the truth also that needs to become, glaringly obvious, that there could be something more. The underbelly of all of this has to be shown, in the sense that maybe we're panicking over something, and the numbers that we see is not anything different from, like you said, flu season in the US. Because flu season, like you said, is something that comes about year. Everybody is ready for it. It's an annual event, and people are ready for it even before it comes along. People are getting their shots. People are doing what needs to be done. But in terms of information flow, do you have people then saying don't travel to the US, for example? We don't have that kind of thing. It's still, travel still happens. With Ebola, where people were dying, you get infected with Ebola, your chances of survival are just 50%. Right?
Yeah.
By the time you get to the point where you're bleeding from all your bodily orifices, it was a terrible disease. It is a terrible disease to behold and to experience, right? But even then, with something so terrible, we didn't have the kind of reaction that we had now.
So now we have a survival rate of 98%. But you're going to change the entire global interaction. I'm not blind to the fact that Trump is having a war with China.
No.
And at the same time, he's having sort of Cold War developing with Europe and NATO.
Right.
And so it may be politically expedient for these organs to sort of appease this little baby with orange hair so that they can get their way and get their funding. Trump has cut money to the CDC. And CDC is an organ that acts globally.
Yeah.
So if you sort of side with him, you may get more funding for some of these international things that you guys do.
True.
WHO sits in Geneva but gets a lot of their funding from the US.
Absolutely.
There's going to be politics in the decisions they make.
An entire political thing. Thank you, Elijah.
Thank you, Elijah. Definitely insights that can't be ignored.
Thank you.
Asante.
Frederick in Mombasa, good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
Good
How are
morning,
you doing?
Frederick.
Yeah, I want to contribute to this discussion, and I want to appreciate the fact that you guys are having facts on the discussion. Two things. One, there is a movie, I don't know if any of you have watched it, the series The Last Ship, where there was a disease that cleaned, I don't know, the world, and there was some issues around it.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, this coronavirus issue, I was with a friend who is a Chinese, who is working as a contractor in Kenya, and he said during this time they're celebrating the new year, there is a lot of movement, and controlling movement is actually not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And they say the problem is the disease is coming from something that they like to eat, the bat soup.
Mm-hmm.
And this has not been made to the public. So the thing is, people need to just prepare for the worst because the information is scanty. Chinese themselves, they don't want to travel. They cannot get visa to go to their country at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it is something that people need to be open about it.
Frederick, do you think...
Geopolitics also play.
Frederick, do you think the Chinese government is withholding information?
Yeah, probably yes, because if you are in China, you cannot Google anything outside China. So it's the right time to now actualize that to the rest of the world by limiting the information.
Yeah, to what benefit?
Yeah. To protect their interests, of course, because if you have a problem, Eric, and you broadcast it, people will run away from you. Even if that problem is solved, they'll still be skeptical to join you again.
Okay.
So minimizing the information is for their own management of the crisis. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Have a good day in Mombasa.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick.
What do you think? 0719-012-600.
What we are seeing is the term, that technical term is called social distancing, where essentially you place barriers, you restrict movements. The idea is to ensure that the epidemic or whatever it is, the virus that is under discussion or is causing the panic is actually ground to a halt, meaning its spread is minimized as much as it possibly is. But usually this happens when you're talking about something that is highly contagious. Okay? And it is known. So you want to slow down that process. And so you want to limit the possibility of people who have it carrying it to some other place. You want to limit the people in the interactions or people spreading it from person to person. Now, that is the theory behind it. But when you juxtapose, again, when you put this against and you place it next to other things that happen in the world and other diseases, then it doesn't explain it enough.
Back to the phone lines. Joshua in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning,
fine,
Joshua.
Yes. Now, I'd like to contribute to the discussion. It's quite interesting that the information being shared is very scanty, and there's nobody coming out to bring out much information onto what the facts really are. And it's a bit disturbing as well. But anyway, that's how things happen in many places. I'm of the view that China could be holding information. At the same time, also, there could be so much international politics being played and the trade wars and everything else. And with regard to blocking the borders compared to now the case of Ebola and the likes, I will ask this question. If it is Ebola in Congo and which other countries, how many visitors do they receive in a year? And compared to China, how many travelers actually go to that country in a year? That's one question I would ask. So, in the case of Ebola, it wouldn't be much of an interest to actually even ban travels. So that is one point of it. Secondly, just by portraying Ebola the way it is, how deadly it is, it is enough to bar travel.
Oh yes.
You don't need to tell people don't go there.
Or to close borders.
Yes. But in the case of coronavirus, it's just a flu. We've had flu every time, almost twice a year. Each and every person has flu twice a year, and it can be contained. So not that it's as deadly as Ebola. So it's actually it would be of interest to whichever party is concerned to probably want to control how it would be spread to other parts of the world. That would be my view on it.
Thank you very much, Joshua, and have a good day.
Thank you.
It's interesting that we bring up Ebola because, I mean, a couple of days ago, we talked about the infections that are taking place, and we've had cases of Ebola just here in the Congo Basin. And this, of course, covers DRC, it covers Congo Brazzaville, and it covers, as far as Guinea in some areas. And we've seen that in the last 2 years, there have been... interestingly enough, just between December 11th and December 31st of 2019, we had 40 new cases of Ebola reported in the Congo Basin, and we've had 2,232 cases of death in the last 1 year from Ebola, and we have 3,380 reported cases. This is a big deal from a disease that kills, and this is just in one country, right? From a disease that will kill you 50% of the time.
3,000 cases in a year.
3,000 cases, 2,000 deaths, okay? And of course, now the deaths are not, some of those deaths are part of the cases that were reported. However, we're looking at this whole number. Nobody's making noise about this.
Shut your boat down.
What is also certain
Nobody's
is that
in a hullabaloo. Nobody says close borders.
Emergency.
We're looking at Burundi, Rwanda, and other countries that border the DRC. They've talked about it, but in terms of arms up and going crazy, nobody said anything about this.
But bear in mind also that even historically, those who are inclined towards reading the Bible, there were a group of people referred to as lepers. They even had their own colony, meaning place where they were sequestered and they were kept. Yes, it's because of this understanding. In fact, there are very few countries that have a history of actually studying how it is you can contain these influenza outbreaks like the US. And early in the 20th century, there are these outbreaks, places like Colorado. We're talking about 1918 and what have you.
Yeah.
Now, they found that if they timely blockaded and contained people in a certain place, one of the things that happened indeed was that they reduced the deaths and also they eliminated the spread. But there were cases where perhaps they did this a little too early or a little too late. There was hardly any change. People still died anyway. So one could argue that from that perspective and from information that research in the past has helped them understand, you have to take action and you have to take it drastically. However, that having been said,
There's a rider. Here we go.
yes, that having been said, in the recent past, we've had influencers that I've mentioned, and in places where the U.S. has had influence and the U.S. has had people moving back and forth from, and people have died in the numbers that I have mentioned. Yet these actions were not taken. So it begs the question again. Yes, what you're saying is true. Research may even support the very actions, but why the extremity? And why now?
Yeah.
And why towards China?
I think
That
it's very
question
clear.
has
I
to
think
be
it's
asked.
very clear to us at this point that it is because it is China. And of course, we can't ignore what has been happening with this country in the last 5-10 years, right? It is because it is China. And, call me out for being conspiratorial or whatever the case may be.
You're conspiratorial.
Voila, c'est ça. That's the case. And I'm saying here at this point, you can't ignore the fact that they've made strides that no other country in the history of the globe has been able to make in terms of positioning itself as a global leader, in terms of positioning itself as an economic leader. Of course, the two come hand in hand. But here we are with what they've been able to do and the position that they clearly have, and others are miles ahead. You want to do something to taint the image to make sure that they don't retain that position for years to come.
All right, since we are conspiracy theorizing,
Let's do it.
May I add to it? Okay, just something to spice the conversation. Fatality, 3%, 2%, all right? Diagnosis within 24 hours. SARS was 4 days, okay? Perfect outbreak. Chinese New Year, 300 million people on
Moving.
transit. Look at the business that will be involved.
And
all
we're
right?
right in the height of the Chinese New Year
Yes,
right now,
exactly.
the celebration
And then
period.
perfect
Actually, 3
location.
billion movements.
Exactly. If you're going to think about the frequency with which they move. But I'm talking about the people it involved, 300 million. Now, let's take it further.
Business
Wuhan.
being done.
Wuhan, bang in the middle of China. Meaning,
People have to cross there
by
anyway.
a bullet train, 3 hours, back and forth. Yes. Coincidence? You tell me what you think.
There's no such
Hardly a
thing as
coincidence.
coincidence.
We wonder what George thinks. George in Maseno. Good morning, George.
Good morning. This is George.
Yes,
morning, George.
Hi, George.
I'm fine. I wanted to make submissions on the coronavirus. Yeah, first of all, I think it can be a conspiracy, and I think that the world can really want to do away with the China economy. But again, you people need to understand that this is a virus, and a virus is not just like any flu, like the influenza you're talking about. I've been doing a lot of research on virology.
Yeah.
And you need to understand the magazine that surrounds a virus. A virus, it comes to your body. It affects your cells. It uses your cell machinery. So when you need to do away with it, you actually need to look for a drug that can go into the cell and kill it directly without affecting yourself. That is why I want to believe that keen interest should be taken on a virus, and it is not just like any other influenza that were caused by bacteria.
Yeah.
So keen interest should really be taken when we are dealing with a virus. So I don't dispute that the other superpower will want to do away with the China economy. But again, we need to look at this coronavirus as something that is very, very, very lethal. Yeah, it is not just like any other influenza or it is a virus, and a virus is lethal. That is why when we are dealing with things like HIV, up to date, it has never even been, a cure has never even been found.
So, George, you think that it's justified to say, let's shut all the borders and let's restrict all travel to and from China?
That is now politics.
Let's isolate China.
Yeah, that is now politics. But when you move away from the politics side, you understand what I'm saying.
Indeed, we do.
I think
So
it's,
don't think
I think it's important to point out at this fact that with any virus that you're dealing with, when you have treatment, you're not actually treating the virus, because you can't cure a virus. What you do is you treat the symptoms, and what that does then is that it raises your body's immunity to then fight the virus until it now then disappears from your body. When you're receiving treatment for viruses, you're not treating the virus. You're treating the symptoms so that your body can then build a resistance towards it. And I think that needs to be very clear in this case.
Yeah, that is clear. I agree with that.
Thank you, George. Have a good day in Maseno.
Yeah, thank you very much.
City wants to burst.
No, what I want to say is this. When you give, or when you put in the public domain a good mix of what scientifically may be true and what may be known to be practice that actually works, and then you throw in your own little agenda that involves not only geopolitical, geo-econopolitical interests, okay? Then sometimes it's a bit difficult to sift and to determine what it is that is going on. But against a backdrop of the economic warfare that America has had with China, and if you talk about the pronouncements that the President of America made in his State of Union address about making America great again, every president seems to want to make America great. Makes me wonder. So they do understand it's no longer great, because if you're already great, why make you great?
Why make you great?
It
used to be great.
Then you're
we
not
want to
great.
make it great again.
No, then they should say we are a great country, we want to become greater.
No, he's actually admitting that we are not great anymore.
That's a problem, because then it means that the theories and the speculations that we have may actually have fertile ground. This is yet another attempt to ensure that anyone who's challenging your greatness is diminished in stature.
Okay, no, come back to that. Thank you very much for all your contributions on this 0719-012-600. Conversation continues on our digital platforms, social media, Spice FM KE on Facebook, at Spice FM KE on Twitter, and of course you can also comment on our YouTube channel, Spice FM KE. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, and worldwide on our digital platforms, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. Conversation continues. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
All right, what was being looked for as an alternative to Thika Road right now, where we still have some traffic coming into the city center, is not anymore, because that too is a nightmare. Hoping that people wake up from this, and this of course is Juja Road. It's a parking lot this morning. Don't ask me what's going on there, but it's not an alternative for you to use this morning. Langata Road of course has lived up, and we have a bumper to, whoa, okay. We have a bumper to bumper situation on Langata Road. and it's not happening as we get into the city, unfortunately. Wow, there seems to be traffic everywhere. Okay, so looking at Mombasa Road is a lot better than what we saw previously. Will get us into the city a little bit quicker this morning. All right, so coming off of Wayaki, where we had some problems earlier, it's moving and a lot more than it was before. So let's see what it looks like in a short while. But for now, things are looking a little bit better. Of course, where you're stuck, exercise patience, folks. You get out of it soon enough. Spice FM KE on Twitter, or give us a call 0719 012 600.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
9:30. Good morning, and how are you doing? Thank you very much for choosing Spice FM and The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting every morning on 94.4 in Nairobi, 97.7 in Malindi, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, 96.0 Nakuru, Eldoret, 96.7 Nyeri, 90.9. www.spicefm.co.ke. We live stream the show every morning as well. Also on our digital platforms, social media platforms, Spice FM KE on Facebook and Spice FM KE on Twitter. Now, the Teacher Service Commission has commenced the transfer of all non-local teachers from Garissa over insecurity. Remember, last month there was an attack by Al-Shabaab at a primary school in Garissa. 3 non-local teachers were killed. This is not the first time. We've had this kind of repeated attacks over and over and over again to non-local teachers who've been posted to Garissa County, and this has happened unabated. The teachers in that region have complained more than once to the Teacher Service Commission. The security organs have sat down and told them, look, we're going to beef up security. But alas, no sooner have they said that they are going to beef up security than an attack occurs and teachers are killed. So these teachers are saying, look, enough is enough. We want to move out of Garissa. We had the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, the other day, Akelo Misori, in the studio, and he was telling us he stands by his teachers, because his teachers are the ones who are suffering. He is accused also, of course, the locals of sitting back and appearing to collaborate with some of these attackers. This is an allegation that hasn't been proven, but he has said that. And he has also said that our teachers are saying, we want to move out of this. Forget about this whole process of delocalization by the Teacher Service Commission. It's a policy by government that, teachers should not serve in districts where they come from. They should be posted in other parts of the country. In this particular case, we have teachers who have been posted to Garissa and these other counties. Whereas we'd like to support the government, we'd like better security assurances for our teachers. Now, remember the other week, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about an MP who had said, look, all our MPs have security officers attached to them, and it's not necessary. Remove these bodyguards from MPs. And I'm saying this morning that, yes, let's remove all these bodyguards from MPs, and let's take these bodyguards to the teachers in Northeastern Province. This is saying that whatever school we have in Northeastern Province, we should have security attached to the school and security attached to the teachers. So the teachers, when they are leaving school and they are going for shopping in the local shopping center, when they are going to visit any of their friends, they should be accompanied by an armed police officer. This is one way of ensuring that we are protecting our teachers in those regions. Because saying that you're transferring the teachers from the area and not leaving enough teachers in the area who are going to serve these schools, you're basically disenfranchising the pupils of the area. Those children deserve what the children in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Eldoret, in Kericho are getting. That is quality education. removing the teachers does not solve the problem, whereas you can provide security and give them a sense of security. So let's remove police officers from that are assigned to MPs and politicians, and let's assign police officers to teachers in Northeastern Province. The Teacher Service Commission has also argued that they'd like their teachers armed. And I said, no problem with that. Because if not, what else do you want to do?
Right. I mean, what
Go to the full extent of providing security to these teachers. Everything you can do. If you want to deploy military police to accompany these teachers, do so.
Well, again, I think with the kind of seriousness that needs to be applied to all of this, and unfortunately has not been. And when we look at things like war, of course, war in this case is extreme, but of course, conflict arises here, especially in these areas. And one of the tactics that have been used by a lot of the perpetrators of conflict is to, yes, we have things like rape and of course pilfering and plumage, but then at the same time one of the sectors that is always attacked is that of education, and then also for them realizing that if you attack at that point, then there's something that you do in terms of pushing down the profile of that particular area. And it's been proved time and time again, not just in Kenya, in different parts of the world, that, a lot of times what they're going to attack is the education sector. And then this means attacking teachers, attacking schools and such, so that particular area then comes to non-existence. And having realized that this is a pattern, because, Eric, what you're saying, I don't think this started last year. They've always been a target, right? And a target of conflict, and from all indicators, they will continue to be a target of conflict.
Yes.
So something definitely needs to be done, because what this means over time is that students will not learn. You will be very hard placed to position teachers in these areas, because teachers are just going to refuse to go if their lives are at risk.
And transferring them.
And transferring them has not worked either, right? So you're going to have a huge lapse if we're looking at education itself, and you're not going to be able to deal with that because students will not be taught. You will have that there will be a social gap when it comes to education if something is not done about this.
22nd of November 2014, gunmen shot 28 passengers on a bus traveling from Mandera to Nairobi. 17 of those killed were teachers heading for December holidays, non-local teachers. When schools reopened early the following year, more than 1,000 teachers refused to return, fearing for their lives. They demonstrated and camped outside the TSC headquarters in Nairobi. They wanted to be transferred. In the end, the commission gave in and transferred 900 non-local teachers from the area. Another attack targeting Karsa Primary School in Wajir, 16th February 2018, killed 2 teachers, one of their spouses. Large numbers of teachers again agitated for transfer. The commission transferred over 1,120 more teachers, 900 from Wajir County alone. This led to the closure of 250 schools in the region. The schools reopened, more attacks again. 5 years now after attacking Garissa University, 148 children were killed, 79 injured. Again, at that point, some transfers were effected. So this whole issue of saying let's transfer teachers because they've demanded to be transferred is not working. It's not working for the teachers. It's not working for the Teacher Service Commission. It's not working for the education sector. It's not working definitely for the children. In the end, like CT, you were saying, it always should be in the best interest of the public. Now here, it's the best interest of the children that deserve an education. Well, they're not getting it.
I think you can push it further. I mean, you've talked about the public and the children, for example, because if you talk about then gaps in the education sector and saying that this is what we're trying to do in terms of develop, you're looking at the entire country's development, whether you want to talk about short term or long term. If you have a certain number or percentage of the population that is not educated because of these gaps that we continually see, then of course it is contributing to the entire country, whether we want to look at it or not. The effects will not be seen immediately, but they will be seen all the same. So does something need to be done now? Yes, something definitely needs to be done. What they have tried in the past obviously has not worked. I don't know what they've tried, but it's not worked.
Transfer.
Okay.
That's all.
Transfer. Then okay. That has not worked.
Some teachers are killed. The other teachers demonstrate. They camp at TSC. They say we're not going back. And they're told, all right, so let's transfer you. And then new teachers are employed. They're posted there. So basically, we're just transferring 1,000 teachers. We employ these new younger teachers. We post them there.
In 1970, to be specific, May 22, there was an attack in Israel. There's a school called Avivim. A school bus was attacked. 12 people were killed. 9 of them were children. 25 were wounded. Now, the Israeli government's response to this was twofold. One, all their schools then guaranteed had protection. Not guards carrying rungus. No, armed personnel, highly trained personnel.
Yep.
And they armed the teachers. The next time there was such an attack in Indian Israeli schools, the attackers got shot.
Everybody was prepared.
Oh, they were prepared. They were prepared. But then again, you're talking about a country where basic...
Everybody has basic paramilitary training.
Like it's that one it's not
It's
basic.
not basic, eh? It's
Basic
not NYS.
Basic is 6 months. That is 2 to 3 years. And you cannot go to university before this particular training. By the time you go to university, you've had this training. So they are trained. But now it wasn't the training. They were armed. That was a response. What is difficult about ensuring that all our schools in that region have properly trained personnel? What is also wrong in ensuring that the teachers who go there are given paramilitary training and armed?
Yeah, because you would want to say that, okay, maybe this is extreme, but it's necessary because you're dealing with extremities here, right? You're dealing with teachers who are shot and killed. You're dealing with teachers whose classrooms, are being attacked on a regular basis. So it is extreme. You're dealing with extreme conditions. You need to then have extreme solutions.
Those aren't even extreme measures. Those are just cautionary measures. I mean, you've been shown what the people who attack you want to do and they can do.
Yeah.
Yours is a response. It's not extreme. It's just a measure to ensure that what has happened does not happen again. Why do you think we buy umbrellas? It's because we know it's going to rain.
Yep.
And so when it rains,
and you know what an umbrella can do.
It continues raining, but it doesn't rain on you. Yes. So the terrorists can continue their business, but this time they will get shot.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're
They will
prepared.
not attack teachers.
Yes, they'll think twice.
Schools.
They'll think twice. But they attack with impunity because they know very well nothing will happen.
It's interesting because the world education body called Protecting Education in a couple of years ago actually took this into consideration, and Kenya was actually named as one of the countries because that came into the fore that there are areas in the country where the education cycle is constantly interrupted because of such attacks in certain parts of the country. And they said educators obviously who face attacks require more protection. The report examined measures taken to protect teachers, including arming teachers, using armed and unnamed civilian guards, setting up community protection committees, relocating and transferring teachers, which obviously has not worked, negotiating with belligerent parties to keep schools and teachers off limits, and monitoring and reporting attacks. Some of these measures bring their own risks, of course. For example, in Thailand, teachers themselves, or rather armed guards themselves, became the targets of attack, putting in the line of fire the very teachers they were hired to protect. So that's one example of, having gone awry. But it is clear that the world has seen that it is necessary in situations whereby you have this kind of conflict and teachers then, the education system then bearing the brunt of it all, it is then necessary, in this case, to arm teachers. Not just have them with armed guard, have them armed as well.
And train them on how to use those guns.
Of course.
Now, of course, the thing that the government will argue is when you start arming teachers in that northeastern area, so where do we stop? Those in other parts will also claim that they are facing insecurity, but that can be assessed. Just like when you go to apply for a firearm license, you have to justify why you require a firearm license. Why do you need to carry a gun? Why do you want to be armed? You have to justify that. If this is the case, then it's got to be the same. As long as you're a teacher, you've been deployed to either of these restive counties, you shall be armed.
Well, there's grounds for it to be on the scale of a national conversation and in terms of what that needs to be done. I think there have been suggestions that have been made and, they've kind of been, up in the air. Nobody really knows, are we here, there, or the other way? But it is important enough for it to be a national conversation and something that needs to take priority in terms of then what needs to be done. I mean, we cannot continue like this.
But take, for instance, schools in the West, specifically America, where students were known to take guns to schools. One of the things they did as a security measure, they ensure that everyone is searched before, and they have metal detectors.
Yes.
Now, There's nothing wrong in ensuring, for instance, that if you work in that particular region, that you are all housed in one place. It becomes easier for you to be provided, for security to be provided
for you.
Yes, exactly. There is nothing wrong in also ensuring that those schools are also barricaded, meaning they have a good fence. So by the time an intruder wants to come in, it has to be an effort, not just walking through and being able to actually cause harm.
Just jumping over a K-airport fence.
Exactly.
Okay.
There are very many security measures that can be taken that will act as a deterrent. But the training of teachers is important. Countries like Japan and China had situations where you'd have stabbings in schools.
Yeah.
Not shooting, stabbings. So teachers were trained to be able to actually disarm such people. Teacher training becomes imperative. Just for the same reason, why did we have paramilitary training for the police? Why do you call them GSU?
Yeah.
Because it was understood there were certain parts of the country where the normal police training would be insufficient. Because you are dealing with people who are paramilitary or militarily trained. The police are meant to deal with civilians, by the way.
You need a force that can offer
Counter,
sufficient counter.
Yes, exactly. And who are trained in the same way and they can measure. Ordinary policemen, their training is to manage and to work with civilians.
Yes.
Not that sort of insurgency, and not in the way that they are armed.
17 minutes past 9 o'clock. Should arm all police, all teachers who are posted to northeastern province. This is northeastern region. This is the counties of Garissa, Mandera, Wajir, because of the frequent attacks by Al-Shabaab that are targeting non-local teachers. Good morning. Let's take a look at the weather.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
All right, looking at Nyeri,
weather
warmed up
with
just a bit,
Spice.
and we're at 17 degrees right now. We're looking at a high of 24 and a low of 13. Expect showers later on in the day. Nakuru at 15 degrees right now. Partly cloudy conditions through the day with a high of 27. Eldoret right now at 15 degrees as well. 23 degrees the high and a low of 12 degrees today. It will get rather chilly there later on. 26 degrees in Mombasa and partly cloudy conditions through the day with a high of 32 and a low of 25. Kisumu is experiencing showers for the next couple of days, currently at 20 degrees, experience a high of 27 and a low of 18. And we rounded up in Nairobi with currently at 18 degrees, partly cloudy conditions through the day with a high of 25 and a low of 14.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Sunright 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Once again, there have been frequent attacks on non-local teaching staff in the counties of Mandera, Wajir, and Garissa. Recent one saw the killing of 3 teachers, and this is not the first one we saw since 2018. 2014, there was an attack on a bus. 17 teachers were killed when they were going for Christmas holidays. In 2018, another attack where teachers were killed. 3 non-local staff were killed. And what does the government do in all these cases? When the teachers protest and they demand to be transferred, the Teacher Service Commission just transfers those teachers. 2004, 2005, transferred 900 teachers. Again, transferred another 1,000 teachers a year later. Now you're talking about transferring teachers out of Garissa County. This is non-local staff. Who is suffering here is the students, the pupils, the people who require an education in these 3 counties. The thing is, when you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, you should pause and realize it's not working. The Teacher Service Commission and the government needs to pause and realize transferring of teachers every time there's an attack is not working. It's not a deterrent. It's not helping the teachers. It's not stopping the schools from being closed. It is not solving the problem. This requires a different approach. And the approach that we're talking about this morning is, number 1, arm any teacher who's been deployed to those counties. Number 2, have schools and even where the teachers live manned by police officers. And you may say, so where are those police officers going to come from? I have a solution. Redeploy police officers who are guarding MPs and politicians now. Redeploy them to those schools in northeastern region. We have police officers. They are not as busy. They're required elsewhere. We have them. It's over 1,000 police officers. Take them to those 3 counties. We'll be sorted. And ensure that those teachers are well trained on how to deal with such attacks.
What about considering giving the security personnel who work in those areas a crash course in education as well?
So they can become teachers.
So that they can do two jobs, duplicity. So now, so that they can do two jobs at the same time. They're teaching, but at the same time, they'll be able to protect, right? Because you're already trained in that too.
Or a basic requirement that if you're going to work as security personnel in that areas, you must have a teaching background.
You must also have a teaching background. No, that will not work. That won't work. Security officers are security officers. Teachers are teachers. Have them together. Of course, when you're saying arm the teachers, is you're saying that in case these guys have penetrated and they're attacking and they're maybe overpowering the security that has been deployed to you, you are also able to react.
One of the things that comes to mind when you talk about arming teachers is the same question about arming civilians and making the population of guns in the hands of people. Well, it also introduces a new issue. That often is the argument that is used. But the number of teachers who are in that part of the world are not that many. The problems they face are clear.
Yep.
There's no question about it. And it's not a danger of somebody being perhaps injured. It's the likelihood of being killed is high. And if indeed we are to give the children of that particular part of the world the education that every other Kenyan in the country also gets, then steps must be taken to ensure that this happens. I believe a combination of two things. Three. Make sure that such schools have security that goes beyond just having personnel who are armed, that indeed they are buffeted and that they are fenced, whatever security measures that are required for such a school.
Put up proper walls and all.
Proper walls.
Fences.
Yes.
It's not just a fence.
If you want to do the Kenyan thing of putting broken glass at the top of it, also put broken glass, all right? But it's a deterrent. Then have the armed personnel and then train the teachers.
And then house teachers locally, not locally, but
localize their housing, make it communal.
Communally.
Make sure the teachers, the compound where the teachers live is known, so that it becomes easier to protect them.
This is interesting because when you look at, we're just going to take the United Nations, for example, and when they find that they have to then establish camps in war-torn or, conflict areas, this is exactly what they do. Any member of their staff is in one area,
in a compound.
So then it's a compound, whether it's a tented camp, whatever it is, but they're all in one place. So it makes it easier for them to guard. Of course, one would say then it also then makes it easier for them to attack because you know where everybody's going to be at, at one particular time. But then in terms of then offering security, then it makes it easier because you know where everybody is. And you know that this is the time that they leave one place and this is where they are going. So all of this, of course, points to planning. And it's got to be that it's focused and it's planned out. This is the way it's going to be. But unfortunately, I don't think this has been taken into consideration.
It's a realization and acceptance. Like you've said,
that we have this problem, right? And there's something that needs to be done about
these
it.
areas, they've forever felt like they're not part of Kenya.
And we made them feel that.
We made them feel that way also.
Yes.
And even now, how we are behaving, it's the same thing. If you look at those counties, Garissa, Wajir, and Mandera are among the 7 poorest of Kenya's 47 counties, with poverty levels of 66% in Garissa, 63% in Wajir, 78% poverty levels in Mandera, compared respectively to 36% across the county on average. These are poor regions.
Yes,
and now you're saying that you're not even going to deal with the future generation by ensuring that they get a proper education.
And then you wonder why extremists have an easy
Breeding
access
ground.
to them. Yes, exactly. You're actually tilling the ground for such individuals. In this modern day and age, they will know what happens in other parts of the country.
Yes.
And they will know that what is happening to them can best be referred to as marginalization. So, if the government is serious about ensuring that there's equality for all Kenyans, again, the citizenry, something must be done to ensure that the children in that part of the world, the Manderas, the Wajiris, that area, Garissa, that those children have A, security, and B, the same opportunities as other children in this country have. That is the duty that the government must fulfill. It's not an option. It's not plan B or C. It has to be plan A, B, and C.
The other argument that has been, fronted is let's break down this delocalization program. So the delocalization program, before in the 90s, in the early 90s, what used to happen is if you're applying to become a teacher in Kenya, you're applying to the TSC, you'd also tick in a box and say, what 3 districts would you like to be posted to? So the government then will post you in that district. Even if you're being transferred within your locality. Now, the new policy for the last 3 years, since about 2008, is let's start posting teachers across the country. This enhances, diversity of cultures. This ensures that everybody gets to have a feel of Kenya as one country. So delocalization. This is where you're seeing non-local teachers being posted to as far as Mandera. Somebody from Kisii has been posted to Mandera to work as a teacher.
By the way, Eric, a little history here. That was the norm.
It used to happen.
Oh, it was
And
norm.
then it stopped at
In
some
fact,
point.
you never got posted to
In your local
anywhere
area.
nowhere near your locality. Nowhere. In fact, even when you graduated from college or university, the first thing people did was to go to a map.
To be ready.
Let me just check where all
you
these
knew
places
where you were
are
going.
because
You
I
need to
could
find
land.
out where
Yeah.
on earth is this place. Okay, there was no Google map then. It was the norm. Then the district focus changed that. But this, what we're dealing with here, has to do more with the changes that have come about as a result of Islamic radicalization. Now, the feeling of marginalization plays into it, yes, but the tumultuous events that happened within the borders of Somali play a huge part in it. And this has happened since Said Barre. The one unified government they had under Said Barre was dismantled. The fact that our forces went into Somalia didn't help our cause very much. We acquired enemies that we didn't have before, but we justified it by saying they were incursions into our country. People were being kidnapped, they were giving us a hard time, and they were harassing us. And all that is actually true. But we give ourselves, the reality of the situation is that we do have a problem. And the radicalization of young people is still ongoing. I haven't heard of a program that the government has to ensure that this is de-escalated or this is reduced. So it's ongoing. And it's not ongoing by people who come from across the border, no. It's ongoing with people who are within our borders. When I read in the papers when there was a bus attack, and that one of the attackers was not a teacher, a headmaster in a local school, I said, "Woi."
Yeah, it's gotten to that point.
It's bad.
Somebody who heads a school.
When Akelo Misori was here, remember, he made that allegation and we let it pass because he was saying that the local community is very much aware of what's happening. When these attacks are being planned, if there's any local teacher who's around, who's maybe working with this non-local staff, the local teacher will conveniently be away when the attacks happen.
There are two things here that one must bear in mind. If you're a local, it means you live there. What do you think will happen to you if you don't seem to simply quiet? But it's not as you don't need to assist. You simply need to be a non-participant. What do you think will happen to you if they feel that you resist? Because the very
resisting.
people who are there are also locals.
Yep.
So they know you.
They know
Everyone knows everyone. Why do you think criminal gangs thrive? You think they're not known by the locals? They are known. But the dangers you face if you come out and point fingers, everyone keeps quiet.
Everybody keeps quiet because, of course, there's that fear that either you or the members of your family then would be targeted if you open your mouth and dare to whistleblow about what could be. I mean, we see it in the movies all the time, but it's a reflection of truth, right? That people often go to them and they say, look, you give us this information, but they say, actually, I know who it is, but I'm not going to tell you for fear of my life.
Even if it isn't for fear, some people just want to protect members of their own family, so they will also not tell you.
Yeah.
You really think that all these terrorists who have relatives within the country, you think their relatives don't know that their kith and kin are in that practice? They
course
do,
they
but
do.
they are not going to talk about it.
So the argument that has been fronted by others is let's just ensure that in these 3 counties you only have local teachers teaching there.
That isn't a solution.
How does that sort out the issue?
It doesn't sort out the issue. How on earth does it? In fact, what you've now done, you've localized the problem and you're going to exacerbate terrorism because there is no buffer. The moment you're talking about locals being part and parcel of the problem, and then you simply say teachers who will be there will be locals again, what do you think you've just done? What do you think you've just done?
You've allowed it to happen.
You've actually cloistered it and you have you've cordoned it to one place and you're not going to give it room for it to flourish and to bloom. That's what you're going to do.
9:30. Good morning. The situation this morning, we're talking about teachers being transferred out of Garissa, Mandera and Wajir. And we are saying, no. Transferring of teachers, you've done it more than once. You've done it once, twice, third. This is the 4th time. It's not working. So stop doing that. Arm the local teachers. Arm the non-local teachers who are working in Garissa, Mandera and Wajir. Arm them and provide proper and better security in those schools. deploy more police officers. Deploy, if you require to deploy military, deploy them. What do you think? Do you agree with this? Should teachers in those 3 counties be armed? Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Traffic.
All right, let's give a round-out final update of what's happening with traffic on the roads today. Serious accident, unfortunately, that happened right around industrial area this morning is affecting traffic, of course, now leading to Jogo Road and then now trying to get into the city centre. Globe Cinema roundabout, everybody trying to get in and out right now of the city centre is causing a problem right at the mouth of the CBD, as it were. Thika Road looking a lot better than it was previously, and traffic is moving. Mombasa Road moving a lot more smoother than it was before. So, of course, officially out of traffic hour. The 3 hours that we have experienced before were quite something for the books, of course. So out of it now, unless something else creeps up, do let us know. Shout on Spice FM KE or give us a call 0719 012 600. But that's it for now. Looking much better.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
So let's have a public debate on this. 0719 012 600. We'd like for you to call in and tell us what you think. Should the local teachers in Garissa, Wajir, Mandera be armed? Should the teachers deployed to these areas be armed? This is a reaction to what is happening now. The TSC has decided to transfer all non-local teachers from Garissa County following the attack that happened last month, and 3 teachers were killed. So this is not the first time that the TSC is reacting to this. In November 2014, when gunmen shot 28 passengers on a bus and 17 of those happened to be teachers, went and camped outside the TSC offices. They demanded to be transferred. 900 of them were transferred out of those counties. Another attack targeting Khalsa Primary School in Wajir in February 2018 killed 2 teachers and one of their spouses. Large numbers of teachers agitated for transfer. The government accepted. 1,120 teachers were transferred, 900 of them from Wajir County alone, leading to the closure of 250 schools in the region. Since some of them have been reopened, more teachers were, of course, transferred from other parts of the country and taken there. We've seen this same thing has happened in Garissa. Attacks, teachers protest, TSC says, all right, so let's transfer all of you, transfer them. It's just a cycle. This needs to stop. You need to have a longer and better solution to this. And TSC clearly has gotten to the end of its wits. And so let's help the TSC this time with some ideas.
Who would be responsible for making this decision? Or who would be responsible for receiving or at least hearing this debate?
So I think
it would come into
two ministries,
Parliament, right?
2 ministries: the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Interior. It's a security issue. We saw the head of state was meeting with the security leaders in Mombasa last month, and this is what they were discussing. They said, look, we have issues of radicalization around the country and we need to stamp this issue. We saw Fred Matiang'i going to these counties to have the conversation with the people and saying, look, we are coming, we need to deal with this emerging problem here. What are we going to do about it? We're going to ensure that we beef up security, especially in our schools. At the same time, the Ministry of Education is telling TSC, okay, you guys, just transfer those teachers. Those 2 ministries need to take action. We've opened up the phone lines, 0719 012 600. Should the teachers be transferred?
Should they be transferred or
No, not transferred.
Yeah,
be armed.
Should be armed, exactly. Of course, unfortunately, with a lot of the major decisions that are made, especially with something like this, where then you have to kind of review everything that you've done, then of course there has to be buy-in from these 2 ministries that you talked about, right? If the job of the responsibility of the Ministry of Interior is basically to make sure that the country is secure, and we're not just talking about security at the borders, we're also talking about interior security, right? If that's their job, and also then to look at education and Ministry of Education and say that the cycle of education must not find any kinks. right? That you have to go through, and throughout the country, everybody must be receiving an education in equal manner and measure, and that there should not be any break in any of this, so that we can, when you look at the education profile of the country, it is smooth, we're moving forward, we're doing all that we can. But there has to be consensus between the two to say that, okay, this is what we're doing on one hand, but we find that there's a gap. Let's have this conversation. Here, it looks to me that the buy-in would need to come from the Ministry of Interior to say that, okay, fine, we understand that that's not being done, but we see this lapse here, let's do something about it. I think the greater responsibility then lies on their shoulders. And the fact that we've seen that some of these other practices or some of these other solutions that have worked in other countries are radical in nature, whereby somebody said, you know what, this is what we've seen, it's been happening over a period of time, we've got to do something about it, focus, deliberate, let's go. Otherwise, people will continue to die, and a certain thing then cannot be done. Right? So I feel that it needs to be, somebody has to sit up and say, this cannot continue anymore, we're taking it further. TSC has tried, the unions have tried, they've spoken about it, people have tried to protect their own. It is not happening, it's got to go further up.
Comments are coming in on Facebook as well as Twitter. Masibo Situma says, let them be armed. This is all the non-local teachers, all the teachers, not necessarily the non-local. We're assuming that all the teachers, of course, in a particular school are going to be, a mixture of a few local and most majority non-local. Remember, the non-local teachers are being butchered, and the locals are Kenyans who are from the area, and we have a history of these terrorists from the area. Therefore, asking the government to give local teachers guns is a shivering idea. Now, this is Briar Bricksbox on Facebook. Briar, what we are saying is all teachers, local and non-local, as long as you're teaching in Garissa, in Wajir, in Mandera, you should carry a firearm, and you should be trained on how to use it. You should be trained on basic, security and basic defense. This is what even CTU was saying. Take an example. It has happened before. It has happened elsewhere. This happened in Israel. An attack happened at a school in Israel. Since then, teachers in Israel, in that region, are armed, and there are security officers deployed to those schools. This needs to happen.
This issue of what we're discussing is, how do you protect the teachers and the students? How do you ensure that learning continues uninterrupted? Because with the situation we now have, they might as well have had flooding, and you might as well have had locusts eating even the school buildings. So if there are no teachers, there's going to be very little learning taking place. But what concerns me is not just the social impact, but the aftermath of this social impact. What is it that young people who are learning, what is it they're beginning to understand about their own people, their own culture? What is it that is being passed on? Now, this isn't the problem that we're going to be dealing with now. This is a problem we're going to be dealing with in the future. Yeah. Now, when you have teachers coming from all over the country, there is something that you provide for the students, something very good. You introduce them to diversity. Diversity is very, very important in understanding who you are and where you are, and even as a country. Now, Switzerland has a population of around 8.2 million people, all right? In that country, people who have guns around 2 million. They have, the last time they had an attack of an individual, say, causing mayhem and killing people, was something like 14 years ago. Hardly any incidents. They've been able to remain a neutral state or a neutral country for the simple reason that anyone who wants to be armed, their country is armed. But they take it further. They have yearly competitions for children who have just gotten into adolescence. They start off then onwards, 12 to 13, shooting competitions. And people pride themselves in being able to shoot well. So for them, owning a gun is just part of your patriotic duty. Now, why am I bringing this? When you get to a point where you're saying, let locals teach locals, essentially we've isolated you. Patriotism, nationalism out of the window.
Yes, completely. It goes. Phone lines are open. Let's go to Kitale, where Kelvin is calling in. Good morning, Kelvin.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. Fine. And how are you?
I'm doing fine, mwalimu.
Asante ndugu yangu, niambie.
Now the issue of arming teachers, I think we can arm them. But before we do that, maybe there is something small we need to do before. We can as well reduce our political class, have security all over. somebody like you had the issue of Papa Wino who was him himself has a gun. Then the bodyguards have also guns.
Yes.
Now, what is the importance of you having a gun and somebody again protecting you with a gun? So we can count the schools in our northeastern region. How many schools do we have there? Then we count the number of politicians with the security here. How many MPs have security?
Yes.
Then we say, maybe for example, we say we have 300 schools in northeastern region.
Yes.
Say count how many MPs, how many senators. Like you find maybe one MP has 5 bodyguards.
Yes.
We can remove all of them.
And send them to them.
Apaki na punduki. Ye mwenyewe apaki na punduki yake akilinde. Then we say those schools like Garissa, we say how many schools peleka wabunga askari wabunga fulani mpaka shule fulani.
Yes.
So you see all schools in northeastern will be having security.
There'll be properly at least there'll be some sense of security there.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Kelvin. Have a good day in Kitale.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
Japheth in Maseno, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Morning, Japheth. How are you?
I'm good.
Should we arm them or should we not?
Now, I want to contribute on the discussion. One, let us understand that if the government doesn't want to protect the teachers, then there should be no need of learning.
Yeah.
One. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Japheth, just switch off your radio, then you'd because it's confusing you. We're actually on air.
Okay, fine. So I'm saying
yes.
There's no need of giving the teachers firearms because one, it will be misused.
So what should we do?
Now, one, what TSC needs to do is there need to be, a deployment of officers within the schools. So if the officers cannot be deployed, then there is no need of working because if the hardship allowance, because what we know is the hardship allowance is around 10,000. So you cannot compare 10,000 shillings with that. And mark you, most of these teachers, they also have families, and the families depend on them. So you cannot take a life of a teacher and rest with it, or play with it in the name of giving this person a job. So come and go, these teachers should leave this job and let the government look for an alternative. That is my say.
Thank you very much, Japheth. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Damian Moniki on Facebook says, we are having the same GOK casual approach towards geosocial issues, which has barely minimal impact on political inclination. Were it known that politically the population will respond to the issue with impact enough to cause policy change, this would be a non-issue in this area. So he's basically saying, just looking at those people, Garissa, Wajir, what kind of political impact would they have if we don't take any action? Zero? Well, forget about them. Mohammed Hassan says the teachers should be trained and armed. Vishal Shah says he's from Mombasa. Remove security detail from MPs and even more so VIPs, so as all they do all day is go out and loot from public offers. It's like providing security to thieves. Withdraw security detail from the political class and redeploy those police officers to these areas which are more in need. We are talking about, should we be protecting a politician? Should we be protecting a child who requires an education? Who's more important here? That's the bottom line. It's not actually you protecting the teacher. You are protecting the child.
Right, there you go. You're protecting the child. At the end of the day, that's what we're talking about, right? To make sure that you have somebody there who continues to teach. Interestingly enough, when we look at these attacks on teachers, the attacks are not just on teachers, right? Children also do suffer some of these attacks.
And the attacks are on non-Muslim, non-local teachers.
Teachers as well.
That's the problem. Now, so you have two players here. You have the terrorists who believe that terrorism can best be spread through attacking and killing people who provide an education. They don't discriminate, all right? We've known cases where we have to talk about it. They also kill security personnel. They also die in very large numbers. So in providing this protection, you see, I heard the gentleman who said that if you provide guns to the teachers will be misused no more than they are currently being misused. But what you then do is you put a security tool in the hands of more people. So the part of the security as we know it is not overstretched, because you could argue that they're overstretched. Remember, in this same studio, we have said that in places like Tana River, you have people whom you call home guards. Within a village, there'll be an individual, not maybe the chief, maybe not, but there's usually an individual who is armed by the government. Why? Because they understand that in the past they'd be raiders, people want to come and take your cattle. So they provided security for the villagers. This issue that Eric is bringing up is not new. It just needs to make a larger policy, a policy that covers a larger area, a wider area of people, where there are known bandits. They let it be known that the bandits will receive resistance, because they kill people anyway, and the people they're killing are not armed.
Yeah.
So it's not as though you're going to increase the level of violence if you arm them. No. You'll put a cautionary note to the attacks that these people plan. They'll now know I also have a likelihood of getting killed. Yes.
I'll face similar.
It is likely that I will face something similar.
Yes, if I attack there.
Yes.
Comments as well on Twitter. Emin says, most teachers might be averse to weapons, let alone the idea of wielding them against ruthless and seasoned attackers. Let our KDF deploy teacher soldiers, kindred members of the armed forces who have a soft spot for children, but naturally inclined to killing the enemy. So look at KDF, have teachers, those teachers who are trained militarily, be deployed to this area. Something that you were saying earlier, be deployed there, because just an ordinary teacher, Siti Muga, and telling Siti Muga, here is a gun, Siti Muga will start shaking. And thinking,
but if you train someone in it,
over time.
Remember, soldiers are trained, policemen are trained, everyone is trained. So it's a question of just getting sure that somebody gets the right training, and then they'll be able to manage whatever you give them appropriately.
We're still taking your comments on this 0719 012 600, 13 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Why would it be so difficult? What is it that, for example, the guys at Harambee House, the Ministry of Interior, would sit and think, no, this is not a good idea?
Well, I think the first thing would be that, I think that fear, or one of those concerns, is actually something that there was, of course, there's the fear or element of misuse, that, somebody who then didn't have such an arm, for example, would misuse it.
By the way, any Kenyan can apply for a gun, to put it simply.
But the government is giving it to you and saying you can go ahead and use it. You're not applying of your own volition.
No, I'm responding to the question we raised about Harambee House, or whichever house it is that deals with such things. That it's not as though you're prohibited from owning a firearm. It's just the process of getting it.
You need to justify.
You need to prove.
You need to apply and say, this is why I need a firearm. And
Yes.
then they look at and see, well, yes, your life is
or
the nature of what you do.
And
those kind of things. Now here, it's just a blanket on saying, well, you're a teacher, you're being posted to Northeastern, to Garissa, to Wajir, to Mandera. You therefore need to go through some basic training on how to handle a firearm. And here is a firearm. In fact, not telling you to go and buy one gold-plated one. Here is a government-issued firearm.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's the reluctance there, because in this case, nobody's coming forth and putting their case. You're basically, as government, saying, yes, go ye therefore and arm yourselves, right? And we're giving you the ammunition, right? So I think that I would see that as one of the bottlenecks, is that probably they feel that people would then abuse them. Of course, to counter that, what you want to do is train people properly. Now, this process of training, giving them the vital information that they need, or relevant information that they need.
So,
well, I mean, you have somebody who would go gun happy.
This teacher will go shooting kids.
Use it in
1 + 1 is 1 + 1 is.
No.
I've told
But
you
in
it is
this case,
3.
maybe-
Why do you keep insisting it's 2?
But maybe take it out of, the situation where you should be using it, that you carry it around and use it for yourself in other cases.
Most
Of course,
Kenyans have some
wielding
sort,
this kind of power
have
over
some sort
other,
of
other
have some
people.
sort of weapon. They have a knife. Forget the kitchen knife.
Nyahunyo,
They have a rungu.
rungu.
They don't use them every day. And these are things they carry. Yes, they carry with them. People have knives in their cars. They have pangas in their cars. They have rungus in their cars. They do. But you don't hear of a motorist.
Were you shocked?
Well, I'm simply telling you that this is a fact. You don't hear of somebody road rage, somebody coming out of his car with
And
the
removing his
clobber.
sword from a scabbard and-
you hardly ever hear of it. Hardly ever. In case you didn't know, a wheel spanner is also a weapon.
Indeed, it is.
And a very firm one.
If you think about it.
And can cause grave bodily harm.
I can imagine.
At I_Ngeno Walter on Twitter says, no, there should be an alternative. Security is for all and not selective. Government should provide enough guards to stay and be around their quarters and schools.
Well, I definitely think so.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so that provision of armed guards is something
Yes.
that should be.
But beyond that, I mean,
Arming the actual teachers.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
In addition,
In addition to that, probably is necessary.
because of where you are.
There's something else
This is
that we
what we've
should
said. I mean, look
discuss
at the
here.
case that we've talked about in Thailand, for example. You had that now. People would then go ahead and attack the security forces that were put in place to take care of the teachers or take care of the school facility, right? So people knew that these guards were in place, and then now they were then the object of attack, right?
But if we go beyond that, the greatest security that those teachers have are not the guns or the police, it's the community. If the community indeed have a sense of patriotism and they believe that these teachers are part and parcel of their well-being,
and they're providing a service that's important
they more than
for
anybody
us.
else would act, because some of those people would know when an attack is about to take place.
Because of the rampant of these attacks that we've seen. So then are we saying that then they don't hold them
Yes.
dear?
But
That's what we're
preci-
seeing,
that-
essentially then.
that
the
is
community has
precise-
not offered any kind of
Those
security because
teachers
they don't
who are-
see their importance.
Yes, those
Yeah.
teachers who are demonstrating, who are going to TSC, if you listen to them, that's what they were saying.
That's what they're saying. Even the community
They're saying
is not
we
helping
are not
us.
welcome.
We're standing alone.
Even by the local community.
Yes.
So basically, we just walk around like a sore thumb. We just stick out.
It takes me to what I actually want to say. And this is something that was brought out in the BBI. Forget the ethos. Many Kenyans don't feel like Kenyans. They live within the boundaries of Kenya. There's this statement from time to time that we're Kenyans, but they're not. So this idea that you're protecting one of your own, no. This is an alien who is in your country. So why should you be responsible for their protection? It's like they're treated like an invading force. And what these people have come to do is provide a service that is needed by the community. If the government wants to deal with such problems, I'm being prescriptive here, theoretically so. This sense of nationhood that we clearly don't have is something that we must work at. It can't be that every time we have an election, it's fragmented and and our backsides are seen clearly and clothed, and we can see we are doing badly here. Every time. And then yet we're going to talk about, Kenyans this, and yet we are not Kenyans. If there are parts of the country where people feel that they're less than the others, we must address it. We must ask why. The greatest protection that any leader has usually is not his bodyguard, it's the people around him.
So when Matiang'i and the security officers go to these regions, what kind of meeting should they be holding? Because, well, they're going there. In fact, the last one, I think last week or the week before, Matiang'i was there, the Inspector General of Police, the local commissioners, the county government officials were there, local opinion leaders, religious leaders were there, the wazees were there, the clan leaders, elders were there. And they were having the conversation that, look, guys, we need to improve the security. We need to... are you saying that was just, whitewashing something?
No. There must be...
Should we go deeper into this? What should we do?
Ethiopia for the longest time had similar problems, and they kept asking, how do we solve these things? Ethiopia have a devolved state. They devolved security.
Yes, they did.
So, if you have areas where there's this constant problem of banditry and what have you, and locals seem to feel, well, devolve security, let it be their security. So when you have a problem, we come to you and ask you. So you know exactly where to deal with the problem, who to deal with the problem.
That kind of worms that you've just done.
I know exactly what I've just done.
Out. Look, saying that Garissa, for example, should have its own security. This is where the politics starts coming in.
Yes, it does.
That it's only the locals who are going to serve as security.
Yes,
here.
it does.
Same thing that we are talking about the teachers.
Yes, it does.
So where do we draw the
Yes,
line?
it does.
If
Yes,
the
it
teachers,
does.
if the non-local teachers are
Yes.
being kicked out,
Yes, it
the
does.
non-local security now are going to be kicked out.
You know, there's something here that there's a reason why I'm saying this. If you want to point to a problem and understand the underbelly of it and how red and raw it is, say something absurd. That's what I'm doing. So consider the alternative.
Tip it over.
Because all this
Completely.
all this one that you've tried before clearly did not work. So that's what I'm saying. Again, you have a problem that's clearly something that's quite grave, right? Then you need to do something radical about it. And if that's what it's going to take, perhaps that's what needs to be looked at. And that is what needs to be considered. Because we cannot have the same story year in, year out. You're disrupting a cycle that is eventually for the good of this country, right? For the good of the children,
In
for
the
the
long
future,
run,
in
yes.
the long run, right? So if you have something that is constantly disrupting that, then we need to do something that's going to plug that hole. And things that sometimes plug holes are not the nicest.
It's not the
and then it's not
conventional
the
stuff.
easiest way to go about it. Something needs to happen that's going to shake things up a little bit to get the results that you're looking for at the end of the day. The result in this case, no more attacks on teachers, and you keep the cycle of education flowing in this particular part of the country, which is eventually what you want to have done. Everything else that you've tried before has not worked.
Protagonist
Something radical,
KE.
perhaps.
Protagonist KE says, arm ex-police officers and KDF the private military way and train them as teachers. Deploy them in those areas.
Well, it is an interesting suggestion, and I think it's worth considering. You know, Eric, the situation in Northeastern was not always like this. You heard of trucks being attacked. And usually they were trucks that carried food. So essentially, they wanted the food. You heard of maybe a police installation being attacked. Very rarely did you hear of teachers being... this is not attacked, targeted.
Targeted directly.
Yes.
Because this is express targeting of teachers and saying these are non-local teachers. How are we going to ensure that we have an impact?
Yes.
So what they've been doing, two things that they've been doing is laying IEDs, targeting police officers, security officers. The second thing is the non-local teachers.
And they're doing it in Lamu as well.
Yes.
So essentially, what you're doing is this. You are spreading fear. Now, this is real terrorism.
Yes.
You're getting the locals to be terrorized to the point where they feel, this government isn't doing much. And if you look closely, you might actually find that they do have a point.
They have a point.
Yes. And Eric, the point is valid. Why do you have security centered on people whose lives are not in danger at all? Who wants to kill an MP? For what purpose?
What? Why?
But there are those who
How many
actually,
have we
there-
seen?
There are those
No.
who actually require this kind of
Like who?
security that we are looking at. No. I'm saying in that light, on the other side,
aha,
there are those
individuals
who,
who are
actually
not
require-
politicians.
who are not
And yet-
politicians.
Okay.
They require this security that we're talking about, and yet it's not even. They're not even being. Their direction is not even blinked in. So, I mean, really, in terms of a reversal of our priorities, I think that needs to be looked at.
Coming to the end of the show for today, of course, tomorrow being Friday, we'll be back 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Remember to join the adults in the room. So yesterday, the adults in the room were discussing how do you parent someone else's child?
So you parent them, Kwani. They're just a child.
I think the context is, getting married to somebody who already has...
Children.
Usually
blended family.
they have children and you're thinking of getting married to them, surely.
Should have been taken into consideration, Abi.
Yes, or unless you marry and
So
then
how do you
and
treat
then this ready family arrives as the additional surprise to the union. Here's a small bonus for you now that you're in this union.
Now that you love me so much. Yeah, I have a gift.
Let's hear what they have this evening. The adults in the room, that's Emmanuel, Eric, and Barbara, a.k.a. the Duchess of Ikolomani, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Join them. Of course, they also live stream their show on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as on Facebook and Twitter. And then before that, you'll be with Monique, who will be taking you home on Spice Drive, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. From now until then, uninterrupted music, all good stuff, including something like a Britney Spears Womanizer, which is coming up shortly, right after this. Yes, it's a song by Britney Spears.
Okay.
It's Womanizer. It's next. You'll hear it.
Okay.
Say goodbye, City. The conversation
continues.
Have a good day, folks. We'll talk tomorrow.
Have a good day, folks. We'll talk tomorrow. And the conversation continues. That's
Thank
all I'm
you.
saying.